Hare Krishna, everyone. I hope you're all well. Sorry, this is the first Facebook Live in quite a long time. Those of you that regularly follow this page, the Hare Krishna Project, know that we've been really busy. This summer, a group of us went to Turkey, to Istanbul. I love Istanbul as part of a research project. We've also been doing lots of fundraising. We set ourselves the ambitious goal during the summer of raising £10,000. And the good news is we are on track to raise that. I'm not going to say right now how much we've raised. We shall say something probably closer to Christmas time, but we are on track to reach that £10,000 mark. And also, you would have seen here on this page that we are planning a trip to Scotland. We're having a little tour of Scotland around the end of October. A group of us are going up for some Hare Krishna festivals and kirtans and harinams. We're a national, I guess even international project. We're very keen to share Krishna consciousness with anyone who's willing to listen. Krishna consciousness is for anyone. So we haven't really got round to doing these Facebook Lives recently because we've been really focused on other things. The other piece of good news is we're starting Series 2 soon of the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. I've got a guest coming up this week, which I'll announce over the next few days. What I'm really keen to talk briefly about today is something, actually, if I'm honest, I know very little about. And that's in terms of the kind of psychological analysis of it. I want to talk a bit today about kind of coercive control and emotional manipulation, big words in the Hare Krishna movement. I have to admit, I was never really interested in psychology. I did my A-levels about 20 years ago, and this is at the time when the government was kind of experimenting in terms of changing the names of A-levels. And at the time, about 20 years ago, A-levels were called A1s and A2s, and if you did both years, it was an A-level. Anyway, I started as an A1 in psychology, and after a few months, I decided to give it up. Now, those of you that know me know that I am not a quitter. I hate quitting. So for me to quit something after 3 months was a bit of a difficulty. But I was doing this kind of A1 or half an A-level in psychology, and I just wasn't really enthralled by it. I was more of a philosopher, someone who's interested in the study of religion at school. Anyway, I quit psychology because I found it far too scientific. But it's only until recently that I've taken an interest in it again, because of lots of things I've seen and I've experienced in my own life, in my kind of religious and spiritual circles, such as the Hare Krishna movement. And the thing I want to kind of talk briefly about today is this idea around emotional manipulation and coercive control in the Hare Krishna movement. Now, let's add some context. We're in Britain. Well, I'm in Britain now as I'm doing this Facebook Live. Great Britain, the United Kingdom, is relatively quite a liberal country. In the Western world, generally, you're allowed to live... we're living in a country where you can kind of be any religion that you want. You can marry anyone that you want, as long as it's legal. You can vote for anyone that you want. So we're living in a country where kind of religion and politics and relationships, there's a lot of civil liberties. There's a lot of freedom. You know, you can set up your own religion, and if you've got a few followers, I think it's at least 2, then it's officially a religion, according to how the government defines religions. So that's the kind of the starting base that we're coming from in terms of understanding religious practice, spiritual practice, even in the UK. We're living in a country which is quite liberal. You can join any religion that you want. You have the freedom to practice any spirituality that you want, as long as it's not harmful. And of course, we would all have different views as to how we define harmful. One of the things I've really been surprised by, and I've only really experienced or seen this over the last few years in the Hare Krishna movement, is how leaders, and I'm not necessarily talking about gurus, that's kind of maybe a slightly different thing. I'm talking about kind of institutional leaders in the Hare Krishna movement, in a number of mats, not just one mat, in a number of mats, try to control our behavior. I've been struck by 3 things over the last few years. One is that religious leaders in Gaudiya Vaishnav groups in the Western world, think they have any right to tell us as human beings what to do. I've been struck by that. Number 2, I've been struck by how they do then tell followers or adherents how to live their lives. And the other thing that's really shocked me from a kind of a psychological point of view is that members and practitioners of Krishna consciousness in the UK, in whatever mat they're in, they do then feel the need to follow the instructions of a leader. And you see this right across the Hare Krishna movement, how leaders, this isn't a common practice, by the way, but you see in certain circles how leaders want to control when you eat. They want to control how you eat. They want to control who you talk to, and how you talk to them. And I'm sure, by the way, this happens in lots of religions. It particularly does happen in Christianity too. When I was involved with Christianity 15 to 20 years ago, I didn't experience that for myself, but I know it happens. And it's definitely happening in kind of the Hare Krishna movement, in Gaudiya Vaishnav circles in the UK. And we see it, this desire that leaders have to try and control people down to that very lowest common denominator of who you can and can't talk to. Now, I'm going to reveal my age. I'm a 38-year-old man living in Britain. I really struggle with being told what to do. So when you start to get involved in these kind of Gaudiya circles, Hare Krishna circles, where their leaders are telling you who you can and can't talk to, I just find it really, really bizarre. You know, I remember years ago, I watched this for years, there's been documentaries on the TV about the Church of Scientology. And when you think of cult-like behavior or cults or sects, we often think first of groups like the Church of Scientology, because they're very cultish in their behavior. They stop people talking to their families. They stop people accessing their bank accounts. And I'm not saying right now that happens, I hope it doesn't happen in the Hare Krishna movement, but I've been surprised that there's been anything even like it. And I've seen that. I've been surprised that there's been anything even remotely like that in the Hare Krishna movement. There's this desire that leaders have in Western countries, Western democracies, religious leaders, Gaudiya Vaishnav leaders, to control us, our decision making, who we can and can't talk to, who can and can't talk to us. When Srila Prabhupada, under the instruction and inspiration of his guru before him and his guru before him, came to the West in the 1960s, he knew it was going to be a challenge. And it was a massive challenge, but Srila Prabhupada achieved so much in those 12 years in terms of sharing Krishna consciousness with ordinary, everyday people. But he was also aware that, this is commented often in his purports, that he realized that he had to do things differently in the Western world. He had to do things slightly alternatively to how things were done in India. In the Western world, if we're really going to take Western people seriously and try and share Krishna consciousness with them, we have to do it in a loving, egalitarian, liberal way in terms of making people feel included. It shouldn't be done under coercion or trying to control people and how they talk to, or who they talk to. So in terms of emotional manipulation and coercive control in the Hare Krishna movement in the West, yes, it's there. And yes, it happens, but it shouldn't happen. We need to accept that in Western culture, well, in all cultures really, people should be allowed to talk to who they want to within reason, say what they want, and in order for them to feel comfortable in their own Gaudiya or Hare Krishna circles. So that's my thought for today on kind of the psychology of religion. It's something we're going to be looking at more at here at the Hare Krishna Project over the next few weeks, few months. This idea of coercive behaviour, particularly in the Hare Krishna movement in the UK. Have a good day. Hare Krishna.